Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you all to this very important meeting today, Tuesday, February 5th, 2019, in the City of Portsmouth City Council chambers. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, we will now have roll call. Please indicate your presence electronically. Five members of the Planning Commission are present.
Commissioners, before you are the minutes of the January 15th, 2019 public hearing. If there aren't any changes, we are in need of a motion and a second. Commissioner Thompson.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from the January meeting.
Commissioner G.
I second.
Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the January 15, 2019 public hearing, and you will be voting electronically. This item is approved 5-0. Announcements of future meetings and conferences. Please note our next scheduled work session is Tuesday, March the 5th, 2019 at 12:30 p.m., 6th floor conference room, followed by public hearing at 1:30 p.m., City Council chamber. Items reviewed today will be presented to City Council for action at their March the 12th or March the 26th, 2019 public hearing, or as otherwise noted. Public Planning Commission rules limit a speaker up to 5 minutes to speak. We also ask that everyone please silence your cell phones at this time if you have not already done so. Our first item, Z-19-02, Downtown and Old Town. Robert P. Beeman III, Esquire, on behalf of Wawa, is requesting to rezone approximately 1.6 acres located at 700 and 720 London Street on the northeast corner of Effingham Street and London Street from D2 Form-Based Code and D1 T4 to General Mixed Use GMU in order to construct a 6,000 square foot convenience store with gasoline sales. The property is designated as partially in the downtown area and partially for commercial use in the city's comprehensive plan, Bill 1 Portsmouth. The property is owned by Lebanon Properties and the American National Red Cross and is also designated as Tax Map 18, parcels 139 and 140. Our staff coordinators, Jonathan Hartley, will the applicant or the representative for this application come forward and present your application at this time?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chair, members of the Commission, for the record, my name is Rob Beeman. I'm a local land use attorney with the law firm Troutman Sanders, here today on behalf of the applicant, Success Development, LLC. Joining me this afternoon is Gray Hanna from Success and Jeb Bell from Wawa, John Wright from Bowler Engineering, who's our project engineer, and then Carl Holgren from Ramey Kemp, who is our traffic engineer. We'd like to just start by thanking the planning staff, Mr. Baldwin, John Hartley, and all the staff for their hard work on this application. They spent a lot of time with us from way back last summer all the way to the present, and they've been great to work with, so we appreciate their time and their assistance. This application involves a rezoning and a redevelopment of the existing Exxon gasoline station that's located at Effingham in London, together with the office building that's adjacent to it for the 6,000 square foot Wawa gasoline station and convenience store. The applicant has worked with the community and all the stakeholders in the area, including some of the adjacent property owners and users, the Civic League, the Old Town Civic League, the Old Town Business Association, Children's Harbor, and St. John's Church, and others in that corridor. We started meeting with everybody last summer, well before this application was filed in November, and has incorporated feedback we received from all those parties into this application to make it stronger. And as a result of that process, we're very grateful that the Civic League and the Business Association have written letters of support, which I believe were in the packet that staff distributed to you. If I could just start with the building elevation, and I apologize, I'm not sure which way I'm going here. One of the, probably the main comment we got from the Civic League when we started interacting with those folks is that they wanted this building to be representative and consistent with the historical district in Old Town that's close behind it. So we made significant modifications to the prototype Wawa store to address this. And I'll just point a couple out to you if that's okay. Here we go. See, on the front elevation, we've added dormer features across the front. We've added a brick veneer on all four sides. On the initial iteration, there was some stone that was proposed, and we've changed to all brick. We have added columns. We've added a hipped roof instead of a flat roof, and then a more decorative storefront, which you see here, which is instead of kind of the traditional floor-to-ceiling window gas station storefront that you see. And we continue to work with the Civic League to address minor modifications that are, within the proffer, the color of the gooseneck feature, the gooseneck lighting fixtures and that sort of thing. So we continue to address those concerns, but we did present this revised elevation, and the Civic League voted substantially to support our application. With respect to the site plan, the applicant recognizes this is a significant corridor, and it's a visual entryway into Old Town. So we've taken some efforts to really dress up this corner here with some additional landscaping and a brick knee wall. And then we pulled the freestanding signs off the corner and limited those to 7 feet in height, just to make everything more aesthetically pleasing. And then, as was discussed in your pre-session, there is the brick wall, 6-foot masonry wall that's along the back and the side, and then some ornamental fencing up here along Firehouse Lane, I believe. So for all these reasons, we believe this application is an upgrade to what's currently on the site, and it's compatible with the surrounding land uses. And we appreciate your consideration of the application. We'll stand by for any questions.
Commissioners, are there any questions for Mr. Beeman? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item Z-19-02. I do have one registered speaker. You would come forward. You have 5 minutes to speak. Kathleen Sweeney.
Good afternoon. I've never done this before, so I'm a little nervous. I actually live and have lived for 33 years in Old Town Square condominiums. They are the building that is directly behind the building on that map. I was not born and raised in Portsmouth. My job didn't bring me here. I chose to live here for the lifestyle that I could have here. I grew up in New York. I like being able to walk to the movies, the ferry, the restaurants that we have here. It's just a delightful neighborhood. I also chose my unit based on a number of different reasons. It faces south. I get lots of daylight. I've got bay windows, again, more light. It's on a narrow street, and it's one way, so there's very little traffic down in front of my home. I can park on the street there, right in front of my steps, and just run right in, so it's very convenient. I also chose this because I was behind the Red Cross building, which is a 9-to-5 office building. It is dark in the evening. It has 1 or 2 little lights, and that's it. There's very little traffic from the building, and it's very peaceful where I live. So when I heard about this project, needless to say, I was a little upset, because now you're looking at a 24-hour business and not the 9-to-5 that I have directly in front of my house. And if you even wanted to see a picture, you could see literally from my railing, it's just a few feet over to the other side of the street where this building is actually thought to happen. I'm familiar with Wawa, shop in them a lot. It's a large property. It's extremely well lit. It has a lot of additional traffic with the additional noise. I will advise you, there's a 7-Eleven a block from me, and I've had to call the police because of the noise at the 7-Eleven while I was trying to sleep. There are cars that will sit in the parking lot, blare their music. I hear that bass line going, and I can't sleep at all. So I am really hesitant to think that I'm not going to have similar problems with a business such as this right directly in front of my home. They also will get tractor-trailer deliveries. I know most of the time they don't turn those trucks off. Also, noise associated with that. So for me, there's no quiet time. There's no darkness. It's not a lightly traveled street if a Wawa goes in there. And I'm concerned about my property values. because this is a different type of building entirely. Just to add, there is another property down High Street, down London, with a building that's been shuttered for a while, the Rite Aid, and I don't understand why you would choose to put a business such as this surrounded by homes when you have other properties close by that would not affect the quality of life of the people who live there. So I'm just requesting that you possibly consider an alternate site for this so that I don't feel that I might have to leave Portsmouth. I chose to live here, I love it here, and I don't want to go, but I can't imagine having a business like this with the lights glaring in my bedroom window and the additional traffic and all the cars and the associated noise. So I'm just requesting that you would consider how we feel at our condominiums before you make any decisions. I thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Sweeney.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item Z-19-02. If there's anyone here who did not get an opportunity to register and would like to address this application, you may come forward and you have up to 5 minutes to speak. Appearing to be none, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed. Need a motion?
Commissioners, we are in need of a motion and a second for item Z-19-02 with conditions. Commissioner Thompson?
I would like to make a motion that we approve Z-1902 with proffers.
Is there a second? Commissioner Ricks? Second. We have a motion and a second for the approval of Z-19-02 with conditions. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second to approve Z-19-02. You will be voting electronically. This item is approved 5-0 with conditions. Our second item is UP-19-02, Downtown and Old Town. Robert P. Beeman III, Esquire, on behalf of Wawa, is requesting a use permit for approximately 1.6 acres located at 700 and 720 London Street on the northeast corner of Effingham Street and London Street from D2 Form-Based Code and D1 T4 to General Mixed Use GMU in order to construct a 6,000 square foot convenience store with gasoline sales. A waiver is also requested to allow 3 points of access rather than 2 permitted by the zoning ordinance. The property is designated as partially in the downtown area and partially for commercial use in the city's comprehensive plan, Bill 1 Portsmouth. The property is owned by Lelibon Properties and the American National Red Cross and is also designated as Tax Map 18, parcels 139 and 140. Staff coordinator is Jonathan Hartley. Will the applicant or the representative for this application please come forward and present your application at this time?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, Rob Beeman, land use attorney at Troutman Sanders. I covered my talk for this application with the last one, so I'll waive my time if that's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Beam. Madam Secretary.
Okay. Mr. Youngblood.
Commissioner Youngblood. Mr. Beaman.
Yes, sir. Mr. Beaman, would you come back up to the
back,
podium? In reference to Ms. Wing's concern, would you address the traffic going in and out, particularly on Firehouse Road?
Sure. Yes, sir. On Firehouse, we are proposing one entrance point, which is, right here. This will be limited to a right-in, right-out entrance point because Firehouse is one-way only. I believe there are 2 existing curb cuts on Firehouse right now, one for the Exxon gas station, one for the Red Cross building. we are taking that down to just one, and we do believe that'll kind of be a tertiary entrance point. The entrance on Effingham right here is a full access. I'm sorry, London, and the entrance on Effingham is right in, right out here, but it's closer to the intersection of the interstate. So we believe those are the two that most folks will use, and this will mainly be folks, coming in and just accessing the site that way. Also, if it's okay, I wanted to address her concern regarding the lighting. We did prepare a photometric study that we shared with the Civic League that I'm happy to share with her, which shows that all of the light fixtures on the site will be inwardly and downwardly directed. And it actually has, measurements of the light that will come off the site, which is negligible just over the property line. So I'm happy to share that with her if that will ease some concerns.
Could you also address your traffic counts going down Firehouse?
If you don't mind, I'll defer to my traffic engineer on that.
Yes, sir.
Carl, can you?
Good afternoon. I'm Carl Holtgren with Ramey Kemp & Associates, traffic engineer on the project. So you had a question about the firehouse, the traffic
Yeah.
volumes on Firehouse?
Yes, sir. I'd like for you to address your traffic counts as you project on Firehouse, particularly the traffic count that's going to go beyond your curb cut and over to Green Street in the vicinity of where Mrs. Wing lives.
So just so I make sure I understand, so you're talking about because this would be right in, right out operation. So you're asking about the amount of traffic that'll turn right out of the Wawa and then continue this way?
Well, continue down at least to the intersection of Firehouse and Green. They're not going to go across Green because that's a dead end.
Right.
They would most likely, in my humble opinion, take a right. They might take a left, but I'd be surprised.
Right. Yeah, as Rob mentioned in his comments, we expect this to be, out of the three driveways, the one that's least used. The one on Effingham would obviously carry the most traffic. Then the one on London, we'd expect that to carry the second most. So let me, just 1 second, I'll look at the how much we projected to go that way. So in our study, which the city staff has reviewed, we estimated that 20% of the outbound trips would turn right out here, with 5% going north on Green and 15% going south on Green. And, we...
Could you throw a number at that, like 10 cars, 20 cars?
Sure.
5 cars?
Give me 1 second.
This is for us, the layman in the room like me.
Right, understood. So in the AM peak hour, like the 8 a.m. peak hour, we're going to add 3 left turns per hour to turn left and 10 to go right. So 10 cars in an hour, that's just 1 every 6 minutes over the
Okay.
busiest time. And in the PM, the numbers are actually a little bit lower. We've got 2 people turning left and 7 turning right. So that's about 1 every 9 minutes.
Thank you, sir. That answers my question.
Okay.
Ms. Riggs?
Question about the masonry wall. Could you clarify what you found out about that? Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. Appreciate it. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Riggs. After your question in the informal session, I did talk with Wawa and the developer. The masonry wall in the back will be, there are several different types of product, all of which are masonry, no other type of material. One is and I apologize if I'm getting this wrong, but a panelized brick, which is, you don't lay each individual brick, but they come in panels, which is similar to the product that's used on the side of the store building. And the other is a stamped product that is stamped. It's a masonry product that's stamped to look like brick, so it appears to be brick, with a color that's complementary of the building.
Thank you, Mr. Beaman. Commissioners, any other questions? Madam Secretary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP-19-02. If there's anyone here who did not get an opportunity to register and would like to address this application, you may come forward, state your name and your address for the record, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. Appearing to be none, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed.
Commissioners, the chair is in need of a motion for UP 19-02 with conditions. Commissioner Youngblood.
Yes, I propose we approve UP 1902 with conditions.
Commissioner G.
I second.
The motion to approve UP 19-02 with conditions has been stated. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. This item is approved 5-0 with conditions. Our final item, Z-19-01, Newport. Mark Ricketts with AES Consulting Engineers is requesting to rezone approximately 30.9 acres from neighborhood mixed use, NMU, to urban residential high in order to construct up to 200 townhouse and single-family detached residencies at a density of 6.5 units per acre. The property is designated for mixed residential in the city's comprehensive plan, Build 1 Portsmouth. The property is owned by the Portsmouth Economic Development Authority and is also designated as Tax Map 517, Parcel 2. The staff coordinator is John Hartley. Will the applicant or representative for this application please come forward and present your application at this time? No applicant? Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, in light of the fact that no one has appeared on behalf of either the applicant or the EDA, I would recommend the Planning Commission defer action on this item until your March meeting.
So we need a motion to defer.
I concur. Mr. Baldwin, the chair is in need of a motion to defer Z 19-01 until our March meeting. Commissioner G.
I move that we defer Z 19-01 until the March meeting.
Commissioner Thompson.
I second the motion.
Commissioners, you've heard the motion and the second. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second to defer Z 19-01. You will be voting electronically. This item will be deferred to our March the 5th, 2019 meeting by a vote of 5-0.
Madam Secretary, I believe that concludes our agenda for today. Is that correct?
That is correct.
The commissioners, are there any other further business that we need to discuss? Before I go to Mr. Baldwin, I would like to acknowledge the Vice Mayor, Councilman Lucas Burke has joined us early. We started the meeting. It's good to have you here. Mr. Baldwin, is there any further business?
No, Mr. Chairman.
We made sure we caught him at the workshop. And we also gave him his right name. Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.